I love being part of the front line. I love being a part of Takanini. I grew up in East Auckland. I have lived through multiple broken homes. I contain the ethnicities of Niue, Tonga, of England, Aotearoa Ngāti Raukawa. I'm proud of every single one of my links. I love both my parents. I love the fact that I've got a wife who is of Chinese ethnicity. I eat mostly Chinese food, proper Chinese food. My kids are multiple ethnicities. And that's one of the wonderful things about Takanini. There's such an amazing diversity here. And we know what we need to have done in Takanini. We know because we understand the people, the cultures, the very environment that it is. So this year, put your vote towards the front line, those who are in the community, working in the community. Party vote New Conservative, vote Elliot Ikilei for Takanini.
Good evening, whakalofa atu, Elliot Ikilei here. So, I hope you like that little clip. You know, it was quite fun making it and all that. Also, hey, just to let you know, one of the very cool things that has happened is I can no longer be late. These Facebook Lives are actually scheduled. So they were very kind. They were very kind to allow me about 5 minutes grace. So for all of those who know me really well, yes, I was pleased. Just give me another 5 minutes. So thank you so much. Really great to see all of you here. Oh, hello, Nevin. Good to see you from Palmy. Good on yes. Hi, Diane. Very good to see you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be Mr. Loner Guy tonight. So what we're thinking about doing is there's been a bit of a sleeper hit. You out there are loving the idea of people like Jordan Williams and Peter Thornley and Helen Houghton sort of coming in. And we've got more cool speakers coming on shortly. And I think Bob McCoskey will come on the next one. And we've got other great guests lined up. And it's turned into really wonderful because that way we can really hear from the people on the field, the experts. Cameron, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're out on Middle War, but we'll see. Good on you, man. Really, really good to see you here. Hey, Mitchell. Wee-hee. Tikia. Very good. Right. Right. So, what I want to have a discussion about is a few different things, and I'm going to be keeping my eye out for any sort of questions so that I can answer them as I go along. So please bear with me, and then I'll see if I can have a chat. So, we had our big debate in Takanini last night. It was really great. Thank you so much for those who attended. It was really, really great, actually. Really, really quite powerful. And I do want to say a few elements of what came out of that particular debate, because it actually does have understandings and ramifications for the entire nation in terms of what people are saying to you and what actually comes out the other way. So, why are people calling you guys racist? Oh, James, great question. All right, I'll jump into that soon. Right, okay. So one of the first things that I noticed was one of the questions that came up in our debate and also others' debates was the idea of, hey, man, what are you going to do for our particular electorate? Are you going to do things like roads and sewage and infrastructure and bus lanes and all that sort of stuff? Now, this is where it gets this is really important to hear. If you've got a candidate who's sitting there telling you that, hey, yeah, I'm going to get sewage done and I'm going to get bus lanes and I'm going to get all of this sort of stuff, actually, it's not quite that easy. Because what you need to, so when someone is saying that to you in an electorate debate, push them on that because actually, for those who are in central government, they can't actually affect too much of the needs of the electorate itself, the direct electorate. So when you're talking about bus schedules and train lines and all that sort of stuff, they can't actually engage too much in that. If you've got a party, so in central government, they can make a whole big fat amount of funding, money, and then they can throw it into overall, and they can say, oh, okay, right, well, we're going to fix up the Wellington, under this funding, we're going to fix up Wellington in a city, and Mill Road and Papakura, Takanini, and this, and then they can add it under there. But an electorate MP themselves can't actually affect that change. So when someone is sitting there saying, oh, yeah, hey, you see that park over there? I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to get this basketball court. I'm going to get this bus lane happening, all that sort of stuff. Ooh, push a lot, because that's not quite accurate. So just really want to make sure that as conservatives, we want to make sure that you are prepared and equipped. Just like when we brought out mates and dates, we didn't want to make up your mind for you. Unlike Labour, we gave all the messages and all the book out and allowed you to make up your mind. That's one of the big things about conservatism. So, Karen, my NC billboard got vandalized last night in the Coromandel. That's whack. So sorry to hear that, Karen. But again, one thing that I do say about the attacks that we receive is good on you for being the people and for being the team who get hit first so that other innocents do not get hit. It is the nature of a conservative to defend those who are weaker than us. And it is painful to us and painful to our wallet and painful to our time and delivery. But as we stand there and take the attacks, we know that if they were not attacking us, they'd be attacking the innocents. So good on you for every single person out there who's taking that good fight out there, who's defending our young people and our democracy and our innocents who are going to be attacked in other ways. So well done. Right. So yeah, good on you, Karen. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. It's awesome. So yes, we were there. The electorate MPs were also engaged in that way. Don't necessarily believe them don't believe them if they're sitting there telling you that I'm going to get a bus lane and I'm going to get these transports and I'm going to change the sewage and I'm going to get more lines in. It doesn't work that way. So really push back on that. The other thing that also got brought up that that for some reason became a bit of a drama was, of course, the Treaty of Waitangi, the treaty policy that we have as well. And of course, we are the ones who stand for equality. We believe in the 3 articles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. That is the first article, which is the cost. The second article, which is the nuance, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours, and we can engage in trade and discussion and buy and sell. And the third article, which you know is my favorite one, which talks about all people of New Zealand will be given the same rights and privileges as those of the British Empire. Equality. That I am me and you are you, and doesn't matter who or what, who you love and what you are and whatever, we're the same. You and I are the same, and we are treated the same. So none of this the race-based policies or this apartheid racial segregation type policies that unfortunately Labour and National have both actually engaged in quite heavily. In fact, every other party has been okay with it, and NZF and ACT, for example, they say that they're actually for equality, but in actual fact, they're very weak on it. Don't forget, it was the 2 Māori on the board who fought for the treaty policy the most. Reason being is because we worked in the field for so many years, and we know exactly what racial segregation by policy actually does to our people. We want to be treated equally, no more, no less. It's incredible. And it's also quite fascinating because every single time I do bring up one little discussion point to those who want racial segregation and racial separation. Those people who say that, it's about equity and if we chuck in the racial segregation policies, then everything will be fine. But don't forget, the best outcomes so far that we've seen for average income levels happens to be for Māori whānau who've actually gone to Australia, where there is no racial segregation policies, where there is no treaty, where there is no affirmative action policies whatsoever there. And yet they're able to fight well, work hard, and bring the money in. Do the mahi, get the treats. That's the lovely saying that I like, the modern whakatauki that occurs. New Zealand for all, Kiwi, not some Kiwis, from Daniel. Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Rima from National was saying something else and had nothing to say about the treaty. Shameful. That's from Harry. Thank you, Harry. Yes. So one of the candidates, I'm trying not to say the name, but one of the candidates from the debate that I was at last night was actually quite offended, and she did say that, hey, actually, National Party are the party of wanting equal citizenship for all people. That's not actually correct because, in actual fact, the co-governance structures were brought in by the National Party. In the same way that Labour was the one to start the racial segregation law policies, the redefinition of the words, it was actually the National Party who brought in the idea of co-governance structures. And that started with one of the water-based settlements. And for those of you who know, the most that I have involved myself with is the Tupuna Maunga Authority, which of course they shut down easy car access for everyone going up there. They chopped down all the white people trees. They removed the cross from Mount Roskill, and they have actually accused a lot of the petitioners who just want to engage in democracy for being racist and colonizers themselves. Quite a scenario. And that's why we say that this is a late game sort of situation. Don't forget, we are also on the cusp where quite a few of the other groups, the race-baiting politicians and the race-baiting academics, also want New Zealand split to have a constitution where it's New Zealand and then it's this other form of government that you will, of course, have to fund. So, Angela, United Nations want to divide, not unite. Yes. So that is actually something also that came out last night as well, and it's come up a lot. The United Nations is actually having too much of a say in New Zealand decision making. But the problem is that it's actually by a sense of type of proxy. So Miss Ardern, Jacinda Ardern, I believe it was earlier this week, of course, she said that actually we need to engage in refugee numbers as per our commitment to the United Nations refugee quota. Now that's, again, quite shocking because we have been told time and time again that the United Nations agendas are not actually binding in New Zealand. Now, that's a tricky because what they've done instead is they said, no problem, you're right, the United Nations isn't binding, but the leaders of the country themselves are putting these laws into place, therefore it is binding within a New Zealand system. And that's the tricky that you can get through. It's quite amazing, really. And we know that the United Nations is actually engaging in the UN Migration Compact. We're very proud that we were the ones to bring that up into the public sphere. We also know that UNESCO is actually one of the big proponents of the sexual education system that's being put in through the enforcement now of degenderizing of your children, even as young as 5 years old and up, which is just incredible. Also, the emissions trading scheme, which scam, whichever one makes it more easier to understand. The zero carbon bill, which came out from that. The pushes also for effectively everything that you have heard about in some areas that talks about absolute sustainability, whether it means that everyone's going to have a job and everyone's going to have enough food, but that they're seeking an equality of outcome as opposed to an equality of opportunity. And that's the scariest thing of all regarding a lot of the policies that they are trying to bring out. That's the United Nations as well as the Labour Party very specifically, is that they're seeking equality of outcome, which means no matter what you do in your life, whatever decision making that you engage in, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that the government will seek to use taxes and state power to have everyone come out the same. Now that's incredibly scary. That is actually what you're talking about when you refer to the outcome of or the perhaps one of the ideas, aspirational ideas of socialism, is the idea that whatever you do, we can have you come out the same, give everyone the same sort of money, housing, quality of life, everything like that. Has never worked, of course. And I've asked this many times. Where has it worked? Never, ever. It has never worked, ever. What it has done is killed off men, women, and children, over 100 million of them. And that's over the last 100 years, 110 years or so. So we don't want that here. We absolutely don't. So we are being attacked by Labour under this virus, not pandemic. Thank you very much, Mitchell. I believe that the COVID aspect, I believe that it is, whether it's synthetic or natural, I do believe it is actually a nasty virus that we need to deal with. But one big aspect, of course, is that we can't keep having these insane lockdowns. They are so brutal to us, it's not even funny. And yes, one can make the argument that there is an opportunistic grab by Labour, NZF, and the Greens to enjoy and to transfer power into the hands of so few over it. Yes, we can now have our very homes and privacy invaded just on the mere whim of a suggestion of COVID. We now see that the laws got amended in the Section 11 laws of the COVID bill, where children can now be directed off to engage not just in diagnostic testing, but medical procedures that will mitigate the virus itself. And this government, and I'm sorry, both main parties as well, keep putting the boot into business, and especially the farming sector. One of the big things is I'm not a farmer, I'm a townie. I was a venturer. I was actually a venturer scout. I was a scout venturer. And they had a jamboree. And everyone went for, whitewater rafting, and they went for outdoors, spectacular. I went for farming. And it was the most unpopular jam. It was the most unpopular one that you could go for. I went for farming because I'm a city boy. I don't know farming, but I realize now how great it was an experience, and I enjoyed it back then, and I enjoy it now. But make no mistake, New Zealand survives from farming. We survive on it. It's not just the cows, it's not just beef, it's also the logistics, it's also the value adding, the manufacturing products, it's also the engagement of all the different agricultural products that we can have in our society. And don't forget, that goes into trucks, and don't forget, that goes into bureaucracy and business deals that go on at the core. It is a product that comes out of New Zealand, and it has ripple effects in industry, jobs, and the destinies of families. And I just don't understand, to a degree, why National, for example, would sign up to, for example, the zero carbon bill, which is a kick in the guts to farmers who are already on the ground. Yeah, farmers farm for 40 million people. We're a nation of 5 million. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And last night, the Labour candidate that we were at was very proud and saying, yeah, we're doing a great thing for climate change, and we've brought in the zero carbon bill, which will make sure that we're emissions neutral by 2050. Yeah, awesome. And I was sitting there, I was thinking, well, heck, first off, the zero carbon bill, it will cost $5 trillion. $5 trillion by 2050. That's if New Zealand's population stays the same as it is and does not grow. It also doesn't even include a large degree of the social welfare needs that will have to occur when industries are actually gone downhill. That's $5 trillion. That won't just hurt our economy, that'll kill people. Because, and you've heard me say this before, a socialized healthcare system requires the steady growth of those taxes, and especially in a nation which is already engaging with aging population. And in the midst of all that, you've got pro-death politicians pushing euthanasia. And there is a disgusting thing I have around that. You may have seen, or you may or may not have seen, that arguably one of our most pro-death politicians has been pushing euthanasia, the idea of suicide by healthcare, by doctor, or whatever, and taxpayer funded as well. And there was a doctor, 25, I believe, around about 25 years experience, and this pro-death politician was sitting there in a debate, and then he turns around and hits her with a smear attack, saying, well, maybe if you were just going to be, maybe you should just be honest and say that it's because of religion, not anything else. And I was disgusted. I was disgusted, because you've got a career politician on the one hand starting to do smear attacks, and you've got a doctor there, an actual doctor who went through years of study and has done decades of experience right in the front line. And the pro-death politician, what did he have? Oh, maybe a smart aleck, personal attack type response to give. And I thought that was just disgusting. I did. I thought, what a d-bag. Oh no, what a douchebag. That's what he was. That sort of comment does not belong. And especially when you consider, yet again, another frontliner, strong doctor, decades of experience. and a disconnected pro-death politician, just gunning hard. And when you think about euthanasia, think about the fact that we do have an aging population. Think about the fact that in every single area that has already engaged in euthanasia, that it has never stayed still. This is a horrifically flawed law. It's not just flawed; it's fractured to the point where it's a nonsensical type of law. You don't even have to be in pain. If you get diagnosed, you can be killed off within 4 days, or after minimum is 4 days. 4 days. And by the way, you don't have to tell your family. I can't think of a more anti-family, anti-life, anti-compassion style of law to exist. Although I suppose the brutal abortion bill would probably come quite close. So, we've already got examples overseas where it's already coercing and where people who feel like a burden are killing themselves. We know that. We've seen it. In fact, I believe currently I'm not sure if they've passed it yet, but about last month there was a real big argument now that 75 plus year olds should actually be able to just kill themselves. No pain, no health concerns, could be healthy as a bull, no problem. But simply that they just want to kill themselves. And that's where it gets to. Actually, it could give it even further. There are many times when we've discussed things, things like abortion, gay marriage, adoptions, a raft of measures that can occur. And at many different points, the politicians have lied and said, hey, we won't go to that area. We won't go to that area. And that constantly keeps on playing out. We won't go to that area. Same thing with this particular euthanasia law. I don't know whether they are lying or just ignorant or incompetent. Perhaps I don't even know which one is less bad than the others. But what I can say is that, yes, it is feasible to say that if we release euthanasia now, then in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, perhaps even 20 years' time, that you could argue would turn compulsory. That if someone does have a diagnosis of a terminal illness, or if they are deemed that they are not going to be able to, or that they are going to be a burden, an economic burden on society, that in actual fact the ruling is that they will be euthanized. It is actually not a foolish thing to think of. It is entirely feasible, not just with the trajectory that recent laws have engaged in, but also the fact that a very strongly libertarian type of aspect does allow for the moral flexibility to remove the natural conservative compassion for people and engage in some of the most brutal, horrific types of liberalization of death type laws. It's absolutely incredible. And I know that it plays on people. It's similar to benefits in that regard, where it looks good and at an emotion level it feels good, but really there's a deep rotten core to it. So yeah. Now I did also want to bring up, yes, we did hear about the poll results. Now New Conservative, we don't really care too much about polls, but it is nice, to see that New Zealand First voters are still continuing to come over. I can tell you directly that yes, they are the New Zealand First, the ex-New Zealand First supporters have been coming over to us in droves. How do we know? Because they tell us. So we do get lots of emails from ex-New Zealand First voters saying, hey, we're coming over. Don't mess it up. Don't you flip-flop. So, but we got you. There are no career politicians. Whether we sound good or we don't sound good, one of the big things about New Conservatives, we don't flip-flop. We are conservatives. We love our nation. We are patriots. We love our family. We think that sovereignty is important. We love democracy. We won't play games. I will also, because it's getting late in the game, so I will also say something as well, which is more of a personal with me on this matter. And so when Mr. Peters first did his I'm going on a boat trip thing in 2017, and everyone said that he was going to join with National. Myself and a couple of others were saying, no, he won't. He won't do that. Why? Because National at the time had a hardcore veteran warrior who had a very strong principled set of values. It was going to shift for anyone. And on the other side, you had someone who had been just newly put in, very likely the protege of Helen Clark, and therefore there's some ideas about her, but she was still very naive and able to be molded. And so it was always, I felt that it was always going to happen where Mr. Peters would go with Miss Ardern. But that's not what disgusted me. What disgusted me was actually that when the announcement was made. When the announcement was made, you had Mr. Peters standing up there on the podium or the lectern or whatever, and the people behind him, and then he was slowly drawing it out as if it was some sort of game show prize. And then you also had the mainstream media were angling out to the National Party people and then the Labour Party people. And when they had it there, and then Mr. Peters says, blah, 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 would join up with Labour. And what I saw then was that Jacinda and Grant Robertson, they were there, and I'm trying to remember, but they leapt a little bit and just said, yeah, yeah. And I was, to my core, I was deeply, I suppose, in the terms of our nation's democracy, I was very offended, because that was quite a disgraceful way of conducting yourself. And I say that because basically Mr. Peters and Miss Ardern and Mr. Robertson, and they were acting as if it was a lotto, like it was a lotto show. And it's not. There should be no surprise. There should be no sort of video. There should be no sort of lotto game scenario about these things. It should be advised. It should be something which is put forward. We are going to go with these groups because that is our ideological leaning. We don't play games. We don't muck around. We're not going to go on a boat and have some fishing trip and all that sort of stuff. That's wrong. This is the people of New Zealand. These are lives. This is destinies. These are rules of the entire country that we live in. You don't treat it like a lotto show. Yep, yeah, I get it. Yeah, as conservatives, we get a bit boring sometimes. And so what? In this circumstance, when you are choosing the very rulership and control of the nation, it should be boring. It should be predictable. It should be. It should not be used as a fun time, stick a meme behind it or anything like that. There's times for memes, no doubt, but not that time. Not when you've got the lives of many people in the balance and you are deciding for the ownership. So I did. And so, yes, I did approach the poll results that said that we have now passed New Zealand First in terms of the poll, that we have passed them. And that was always going to happen because, again, we don't flip-flop. We don't play games, Mr. Peters. You have abandoned and betrayed your core voter base. Don't forget, I did not set our team upon your team until you admitted in the last hour on the last day of Parliament in 2018 that you had indeed signed the UN Migration Compact. Before that, have a look if you want. Did not go after you. Only when you had disgracefully treated with contempt and disdain your supporters and all of the people of New Zealand who believe in sovereignty and believe in the rights of this nation, only then did we go after you. And so, yes, we are proud and humbled to accept so many thousands of the New Zealand First, the ex-New Zealand First supporters to our banner. And they have been very clear. Don't stuff it up. So we won't. Now, all right, let's see. What I find disturbing is the levels and manipulation. Yes, Mitchell, absolutely right. Absolutely agree with you there. Absolutely, yep. The manipulation is absolutely bad. One thing I can't believe I'm going to do a guarantee. What I can guarantee is this: you'll get my heart, and you'll get. Gosh, I can't believe I'm going to say I'm transparent. Yeah, I think I'm pretty transparent. There'll be some stuff that I won't tell you, but it's more stuff that won't hurt. So I'm not going to tell you if I pick my nose or something like that, So, but I'll be straight up. That much I can say. And it's difficult because I don't like saying that, oh, I'm going to be this and this and this. But word is bond. One of the big things about being frontline is that we've had to earn our reputations. I am aware of my reputation. No, it's actually not all good. I am seen as a pain in the ass quite a lot for some areas, and quite very irritating to authority and leadership. But I don't think I am. That's my reputation. It's just merely that I think it's important to challenge and to make sure that where decisions are being made are being made in a good, decent way. So, yeah, to you ex-New Zealand First supporters, and for those of you who are on the fence, come on over. We got you. We got you. You want conservatism? We got you. You ask anyone about us. We don't flip-flop. We've got your back, and we've got conservatives back, especially. So I'll get another couple of questions. You must look into bank bail-in laws, Elliot. Oh, Gary, yes, you've come up with that. I don't know what that is. Send me a link so that I can look into it a little bit more deeply. I do apologize. It's being very cray-cray, very, very busy on everything. But send me a link and I'll try to get in there, okay? Will you get New Zealand out of the Paris Accord? Or some random guy? Yes, we will. We'll get out of Paris, Kyoto. Well, Kyoto is no longer really there, but we'll get out of all of the ETS stuff, all of the emissions trading scheme stuff. We're gone. We want to also cut up the zero carbon bill, and that means that we can repurpose those billions of dollars into domestic R&D projects so that we can engage in good quality research, so that we can increase our productivity as well as reducing our own emissions and pollution issues, so that when we've got a more marketable agricultural product that we can send overseas. And not only that, once we've got our solutions all set, stamp it with Made in New Zealand, sell it overseas so that we get the money back into our economy. Easy, right? Nothing rocket science or anything like that. I don't mind if you're annoying for good or keep leadership accountable. Oh, thank you, Daniel. Yes. Yes, that is my rep. It does leave me on the outer sometimes, but so be it. It is what it is. Some random guy. Thank you. Oh, yep, Siki. All right, one more question, and then we'll call it a night. Oh my gosh, thank you so much also for tuning in. Really great to have you all with us. It's exciting. This is exciting sort of stuff. We're getting there. In fact, also, I just want to say, I was at a church this morning, and the pastor there was just he said, no, it's not our duty to tell you who to vote for, but we're going to tell you right now that you cannot be ignorant. You must engage. You must know the party's policies. Don't worry about how interesting or clever or cool they are. Don't worry about whatever the party seems to be. You've got to vote for your values. You've got to vote for the policies. And one of the great things about being a truly grassroots operation, when the media don't like us, one of the great, great things is that our name gets spread out by word of mouth. Word of mouth. And it's awesome because the polls still don't have us at what we actually are. We know that. Our people around the country know that. We're going to gun it hard. So no worries. Right, now let's see. One more question, and then I'll do a runner. We are pastors and have the NC freedom of speech sign outside our church. Lost 3 from our church over it, but we wave goodbye. As far as we are concerned, any Christian who votes Labour is not a Christian. I didn't say that. But I will say this. If you are a Christian, you should not be voting Labour. National, you can sort of drift a bit, because I will say this, however, if National as a party had said no to the most brutal abortion bill in Western culture, we wouldn't have the most brutal abortion bill in Western culture. Every single party, either partially or fully, supported the most brutal abortion bill in Western culture. So as for Labour, no. If you're a Christian, you should not be voting for Labour. I'm happy to say that. I'm happy to go head-to-head with anyone who says differently, because that is absolutely right. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do something like that in the next couple of days. So, thank you so much for listening. It's been 36 minutes. Woo! We went over. So, look, please keep on going to the comments, have discourse. That's what we love. Agree, disagree. And it's just really exciting here. So exciting. Only a few more weeks to go. But in the meantime, we've got your back. We're going to fight hard for you in every single opportunity and every single angle that we can. In the meantime, God bless you, and God bless New Zealand.
I love being part of the front line. I love being a part of Takanini. I grew up in East Auckland. I have lived through multiple broken homes. I contain the ethnicities of Niue, Tonga, of England,